This is Prexiso's laser and tape measurer. It is just a typical tape measure, but it's got a laser inbuilt into it. We're gonna open this thing up, have a look at the tool, test it out, and see if it's any good. So I spent about $89 AUD on this laser and tape measurer. So straight away we can see the batteries it does use. We do have AAA batteries here. We'll put them in the tool in just a second. For now though, I just want to have a look at the tape measure. Now I think there's a lot at stake on how good this tape is to use. If it's not a good tape to use, then there's no point using it even if it does have the laser feature. So straight away the tape does have a auto lock feature, meaning I can pull out the blade and it's just gonna stop wherever I pull it, and it won't retract until I push down on this button on the bottom of the tool. We can see we do have the metric measurements on one side and the imperial on the other side. When I bought it in store, this is the only one that was available. I'd obviously love one that was just metric on both sides, because it does get annoying if I am reading the tape measure and I want to read the metric measurements on this side, and I've got to try to sight the line over on the metric side to see what it is. So I still haven't put the batteries in yet, but I do want to see how far out we can run this tape measure and make sure it is a solid tape. If it was a tape that couldn't hold itself and just bent over and broke straight away, it wouldn't be too useful. And I am playing around with it now, and the tape itself is quite flimsy. So right now I'm at 2.4 meters. I've got one hand in the middle, but if I let go of that, yeah, it's just gonna break every single time. So I think 1.8 meters is almost the max that we can get with this tape without it bending and breaking on itself. I'm just gonna slowly pull it out. We'll go to 1.9 and yeah, that's breaking straight away. We can see the size of the blade compared to one of these crescent Lufkin tapes, and it is probably half of the size. This is a typical size that I would be using in most of the tape measures I use. The reason it's so much better is because it is thicker, meaning it will be stronger, and I can extend the tape out further without it breaking. So for $89, it is a bit disappointing that it isn't a very durable, solid, strong tape. But I think the main reason we bought this is for the actual laser feature. So let's throw the batteries in and see how that goes. So it looks like there's a little screw at the back here that we've got to undo. And yeah, there we go. It's just a little latch that opens up, and we've got two slots for the batteries. There we go. Now what's happening right now that you can't see is that it's actually shooting a laser out of the front here. So this laser is hitting a wall in front of me, and if we zoom in on the top of the tape, it's pretty hard to focus on the top of the tape, but you can see we've got a continuous measurement, and it is constantly changing as I move around that laser. If I shine it right in front of me, you can see right there, the laser's hitting the surface, and we do have a constant reading on the top of the tape. So what I can do is I'm pointing the laser at the table right now. I'm going to press the big red button on the side of the side of the laser, and what that's done is it's actually locked that measurement in at the top of the tape. Right now we've got a second measurement below it. It's because I actually hit the tape twice, and that's the one that's an active measurement. If I put my hand in front of it, it should hit my hand, and there we go. We've got a reading right there. So that's 280 millimeters right now. What I did notice is that as I got closer to the tape, I'm about probably 100 millimeters away now. It's actually not reading a measurement unless I'm a certain distance away. So this is interesting. I'm just going to move my hand slowly back, and it looks like once I go past roughly 233 millimeters, it's a very specific measurement, but as soon as I go past 233 millimeters, that's when the tape starts to read the measurement. All right, so what we want to do is I'm going to turn it back on, and we want to see how accurate this reading is. That's reading 1659 right now. I'm going to leave that tape there. We can see it's hitting the wall, and I'm going to use my other tape next to it, and we're going to actually pull out the tape measure, butt it against the wall, and see how accurate the tapes are. So I'm just going to leave it there. We're not going to touch it. That's at 1659. And see, I'm holding that tape right there. That's at the same level right next to the laser. What I'm going to do is pinch it there, so it doesn't matter if that side drops down, it's not going to move. And okay, that's actually not too bad. So the measurement on the top has changed to 1654. I don't know if you can really read that. So on the Lufkin tape, if I sight that measurement through, we're looking at about 1655.5. So I'm going to say it's about 1.5 mil off for this measurement. So we can see the laser is measuring to the back of the tool. The reason it does that is if we wanted to find the area in this room here, I can get the tape, turn the laser on, butt it up against the wall, the laser's hitting the wall on the other side, And if I press that button again, it's gonna lock in the measurement and give me the internal measurement of this room. So we have 2656 for the internal measurement. And I'm actually curious, I'm gonna use the exact tape that comes with this laser measurer and see if this reads the same. So it is a bit awkward because it doesn't span past 1800. I might want to pull a little bit more out there. I'm honestly reading about 2658. Having the tape bent up on an angle like this is always hard to get a perfect measurement, so I'll give it a couple. It is saying 2656 with the laser. I'm just going to recheck that because depending on where I hold it against the walls might not be straight. It could change slightly. I did another test. It gave me 2654. It's within a couple mil, and I think it's pretty accurate. I don't actually think this thing is millimeter perfect, and most lasers, and I'm going to check the box, they do say that within 3 millimeters of accuracy. Another thing I'm reading right now on the box is that it does say it has a 1.5 meters of standout, which means if I pull it to 1.5 meters, which I've got it at now, that's what it's saying. It can stand out to 1.5 meters. So the box isn't lying. It's saying 1.5 meters. We'd established that I can go all the way to 1.8 meters, which I'm at now, and that's still standing out at that. So they've undersold themselves with the standout. It's not the strongest tape, but I'm guessing they had to make the tape a bit smaller so you can fit the electronics of the laser in the side of it here. It also says here in the box that it can measure from 200 millimeters to 40 meters. We did find that out with the 200 millimeters, that if my hand was too close to that laser, it wasn't getting a reading. We actually found out it was closer to 233 millimeters before it got a reading, but I don't think you'll be using a laser for a gap that small. I can't think of a single appliance or a single time where you would need that. Going up to 40 meters is pretty impressive. I've used multiple lasers before, and the issue with using them up to 40 meters is actually holding it steady, and you won't be able to see your laser. It's actually trying to make sure the laser is hitting what you want it to hit. The next thing we want to get into though is the area and volume features. So these features are essentially an inbuilt calculator in the laser measurer to be able to measure the area and the volumes of certain areas. For example, say I want to get the volume of this room behind me here. I can turn it on. We've noticed it's a bit hard to see the actual LED display on the camera, but if I click the function button at the top here, I press it once, and it's got me a little smooth diagram, and it says meters squared. So that's going to be the area of something. For example, I'm just going to be using this wall at the back here. So say I've got a job and I'm going to tile this wall, or I'm going to paint the wall, and I want to work out how much paint or how many tiles I need to get. For that, we need to work out the area of this wall, and I've got this set up to area. So what I have to do is butt the tape into this side here. The laser's shining on that wall, and I'm going to lock that measurement in. It's got that first measurement locked in, and then what I'm going to do is the same thing, but I'm going to butt the tape onto the floor and get a reading to the roof. So the way to work out your area is find out that measurement across and that measurement up, and you want to multiply those together. This has just automatically done that for us, and it's given us 6.5 meters squared. I've done a few reviews on laser measurers, and this is essentially the same thing. It's a laser measurer, and it's got that extra little feature of having a tape as well if you do want to measure a few things. One thing I've always said with distance laser measurers is that they may not be perfectly accurate. I probably wouldn't be using it to get measurements to actually cut material out, but what I would be using them for is to run around and quote jobs. And you can see how easy it is right then to work out the dimensions of that wall. The only downside though is that you can only use it in an enclosed space, so that you can butt your tape up against the wall and the laser can hit the other side. We did also mention it does do volume as well. All we have to do for that is click function once again. We have a cube shape there, and it says meters cubed, and that's just giving us that extra measurement. We can do the same thing we did before, butt that up there. It's got a measurement from wall to wall, a measurement from floor to ceiling, and say this is a pit that we want to fill up with concrete, for example. I can butt the tape into where this wall is here. I'm just going to hold it roughly here, get that measurement to that back wall, and that's given us how many cubic meters is going to fit into this room here, which is 20.7 cubic meters. So as you can see, this thing is awesome for measuring up. It's very basic math that it's doing, but it's just saving us that extra step of measuring everything, then getting your calculator out, working them out. It's just doing everything there for you. Actually, I'm going to take back something I did say. I did say I wouldn't be using this to actually measure materials, but I have thought of a few jobs where I probably would be using this tape. If I was doing a fix and running around cutting skirting boards, this setup could almost be perfect to use. To get your internal skirting measurements, such as that back wall there, you can see how easy it is to get the laser out, get that measurement, and if that's the first skirt you're doing, if it's a mil short because the laser's inaccurate, you're gonna hide it by the time you do your side skirts, so I think that's fine. You've also got the tape on you, and if I'm measuring skirting boards on the ground, it doesn't matter that this can't stand out past 1800. I'm gonna be laying the tape on the ground, so it should be fine in that aspect. So I do think it is pretty handy in that approach. I'm just a little bit annoyed with how flimsy the tape is. This tool essentially does everything a distance laser measurer does, and it's got the tape built into it as well. But the only issue is if you're a carpenter and you've got your tool belt on, you want to minimize how many tools you have on you and how much weight you're carrying around. The issue I see in this is that it isn't a perfect tape. This isn't good enough to replace a proper tape measure that you'll need to use. So what you'll be doing is having to carry this and then also another tape. That takes up pouches in your tool belt, it adds more weight, and although the distance laser measurer feature is great, it will be a lot more smarter, I reckon, to actually use a smaller condensed distance laser measurer. As I did say though, if you are doing skirting boards, that could be an exception where you put your proper tape to the side and just try use this out. Especially if you're running back to the miter saw and you're cutting the boards as you go, you can use this tape to hook over your boards and get your measurements that you're cutting. I think it's a pretty cool tool. I love the direction it's going in. If they could find out a way to make a thicker, more sturdy tape without having to make the body too big, I think they would have perfected it.